Hey, boss, have you ever heard of the Japanese concept of Ikigai for finding your entrepreneurial purpose? Ikigai refers to the Venn diagram of what you care about, what you're good at, what the market needs, and what you can be paid for. Finding your Ikigai can be strategic or accidental, but following her passion and curiosity is how today's guest, Brittany Herzberg, figured hers out. Have a listen. As it turns out, neither one of us could remember exactly how we first got connected, but we have quite a few delightful people in common. And you have done some work for me in the past by doing an SEO audit. And one of the things that I think is most delightful about you, Brittany, is how much you really embrace your curiosity as a business asset. And what I mean by that is that we all think we're supposed to niche. We all think we're supposed to focus. We all think we're supposed to choose a lane and stick with it so that we're easier to find and easier to refer to. But as I've watched your business develop over the last few years, you've been kind of following your own unique path, which, tell me I'm wrong, but I think it's dictated by following your curiosity and just seeing where it leads you.
The more I've thought about it in the last few years, the more I realize how many entrepreneurs have been in my family. For example, my mom's dad, so one of my grandpas, had his own barbershop. And it was in a small little town in Indiana. And then, fast forward a few years, my parents get married. My dad is in sales and he was an employee some of the time. He had some businesses, but it very much made me see how volatile that being an entrepreneur could be and being a business owner could be. And so for someone like me, who all I was craving was stability and certainty and security, those things made entrepreneurship seem just like something I never wanted to touch. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to think about it. But I ended up going to school to become a massage therapist. And one of my clients very early on in my career was a retired businessman and he was bored. And he was always giving advice and he just kind of kept poking. And he was like, when are you going to open your practice? When are you going to do a solo thing? When are you going to be your own boss? And I'm like, I don't know. His son had a yoga studio with an open room. He was looking to rent the room. I thought to myself, how much harm could this cause? I'll go check it out, see if I like it or not. I ended up liking the idea. I jumped ship from the business I was at the time. And that was back in 2015, I think, 2014, 2015. So I had a massage practice. I was myself. I didn't ever want to hire other massage therapists, but that's how this whole entrepreneur thing got started.
Okay, so I have to ask you a couple questions about that because, it's so interesting to me, Brittany, how often people see entrepreneurial traits in us or recognize that we would be successful as an entrepreneur well ahead of when we see it. And I think especially given your family background, you also saw the dark side. You also saw the scary side, the financially, unpredictable and unstable side. But this man who should have just been quiet, kept his mouth shut and enjoyed his service was like, hey, by the way, while you're, loosening my muscles, I would like to free up your mind about some possibilities for you. I'm that client too. So yeah, I have a hard time shutting up even when I'm there to relax. But what do you think it was about you that made him think? Because clearly, I would guess he probably doesn't say that to every massage therapist he's ever been to. There was something about you. And yes, okay, I get it. He was maybe retired too soon. He was bored. He had more to give, but I also think he was picking up on something. Do you have any thoughts about that? What that might have been?
The thing that's coming to mind and the reason I even ended up sticking with being my own boss is because I love taking care of people and I want to do it in the way that I want to do it. There's no other way that I can say it. So I take great care of the people around me. And I do think he probably saw that and was like, oh, you've got attention to detail, you're paying attention to people and the needs, and you're checking in with them. And yeah, so I think probably that was what stood out to him. But I've never had anybody ask me that. So it's kind of cool to reflect on that.
Well, I'm thinking back to myself. I was a psychotherapist for many years, and I worked in a publicly funded mental health and healthcare services for years. And over time, I had so many people say, "Do you have a private practice?" Or like, "Do you also have a private practice?" And many would just say, "You have a private practice on the side, right? Like this isn't all you're doing." And I'm like, "No." And first couple times it happened, I thought, I don't know why they're asking. But then I started thinking, no, really, why are they asking? And I finally asked somebody, "Why do you want to know?" And I think they said something like, "I don't know, you just seem like you would, or you just seem like the type." And I'm like, the type. It was years before I realized what they were picking up on is this entrepreneurial tendency to want to do things your way, as opposed to the way the organization does it, the way your colleagues do it, the way your peers do it, the way you've been taught to do it. Like people who are entrepreneurial, whether they are self employed or working for someone else, are often people who take great pride in their craft, whatever it is, and in their ability to do the job, the role, the task, the function according to their standards, according to what fulfills them. And so I think he did you a real service. He gave you a gift by recognizing that, encouraging it. It kind of makes me wonder. I'm always thinking about the sliding doors effect. Like, if you hadn't had that client, do you think you've probably thought about this a million times or maybe a couple of times?
I
No, not at
haven't.
all. Oh, well,
No.
I'm that person who asks those questions, I guess. It's like, do you think you would have figured it out and sort of ventured out on your own sooner or later, even if you hadn't had that encouragement?
I may have, but it truly, I mean, being my own boss, being an entrepreneur really did scare the crap out of me. So maybe, but it is interesting to think about the fact that just that repeated conversation
Mm.
it like changed the trajectory really of my life.
And stimulated your curiosity, because whether you thought to yourself, "I wonder what he sees in me," you thought, "Well, I wonder what would happen if I did that." And while I know you do not have a diagnosis of ADHD, we've talked privately that you, like, I kind of identify with these traits and tendencies. What I am now referring to as ADHD-ish. And one of the hallmarks, one of the most prominent traits is curiosity. So it's kind of like, some people would think of it as a fuck around and find out. I think of it more as, I wonder what would happen if I try this. I wonder what would happen if I do this. Like if you're more risk averse, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can
Yeah.
happen is I try this, I spend a few months, I waste a few dollars. It isn't all that it's cracked up to be, or I just don't freaking like it. I'll just go back to what I was already happily doing before this thought came into my mind. So, but
hmm
yet it did work out and you did stick with it. So tell me about how you transitioned from that business into the current one, or was there another one in between?
No, it was massage therapy into SEO, copywriting, and strategy. So, really, what it boils down to is the pandemic. I was home. I couldn't actually go work on my clients. And a few things stacked on each other. So, I was missing my clients. I was also, I was staying in touch with them. I was learning about this whole online world of webinars and workshops and master classes. And I attended several because I love learning. And again, the curiosity piece.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I was hearing about at that time was you need to have social proof on your website. You need to have testimonials from clients. And I noticed I didn't have any. So while I was talking with my clients, I thought, oh, this would be a productive thing to do because I'm also all about efficiency. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, let me create this form. Let me send it out to all my clients and anyone who's willing to respond. Great. Well, that led into me just completely revamping my website, working on the copy, attending a webinar where I learned that I was a pretty darn good copywriter and that people would actually pay me to do something like this. So I thought, oh, let me investigate this skill and investigate this thing. And so I started pitching it on the side. I went back to my massage practice. I pitched the copywriting on the side. And at that point, it was just copywriting. And I was taking on a variety of tasks. So like email copywriting, or a few friends had flyers they wanted me to write, or website copy. And this was at the time all healthcare, health and wellness, healthpreneur, however you want to say it, business owners. And so that was like my first niche. Fast forward a few more months, my boyfriend and I decided we want to live in New England. We knew we wanted to be up here, but we just didn't know when or where. So we started exploring, and we went to a state where it didn't pan out, but we were there for 4 months. I tried to settle another massage practice. It was not working. I was making like next to no money, and I was the primary earner at that point. So it was pretty terrifying that I wasn't making money. And one day I was like crying in the bedroom, and I was like, what can I do? What can I do? And I realized, well, I've been nurturing this little side business. I could just, run that more fully, really lean into it. So I did. And around that time, Clubhouse was out, and I was in one room that was talking about SEO. And so, that's how I ended up following the SEO rabbit hole. And then I'm the kind of person that once I see one thing benefits something else, so SEO benefiting copywriting, I cannot pull the two apart. Just like with my massage practice, I would offer cupping along with, my elbow and my hand or whatever else I was using. And so it's now just this thing that they're inextricably tied, and both of them go into pretty much everything I do. So that is the windy road that led us here, but it was fun every step of the way. And I was really just, like you said, following my curiosity.
You definitely are ADHD-ish, because even though you had, some reasons to think being self-employed was scary, you were willing to take the risk. You were willing to experiment and see what happened. And then when circumstances made it impossible for you to continue to do that, it's not like you were just going to sit around doing nothing. The need to be learning, the need to be stimulating your mind, the need to be doing something that feels intrinsically satisfying and productive, even though you're stuck at home. I mean, you could have been making bread, you could have been quilting, but you got curious in a way that your mind needed to be stimulated. And I'm sure at the time you're thinking, well, once I can open my practice back up again, this will just make my website more effective because I haven't been getting testimonials. I didn't even know that was the thing I needed to do. And then once I learned about that, I learned about this other thing. So it's kind of like the need for your mind to be stimulated and curiosity being a driver, but also how you just sort of allowed yourself to realize, well, this is important and this is important. And now that I know, I can't uncheck that box. Now that I know that both social proof and SEO are important, I can't go back to a time when I didn't know that, but I also can't pull those apart. I don't really know what the word for it is, but I kind of think about it as like how I think about my brain is like a satellite dish. And stuff is always streaming in and streaming out. And then once it's in there, it becomes part of the matrix. So I'm not very good at like pulling the taffy apart. It's like once it's part of the taffy, it's part of the mix. It's in there, and I can't really remove it. So your story about how you've acquired these different skills and how it's not just your curiosity has been the driver, it's that your mind sort of amalgamated that information and you realize, oh no, this is important too. So I also need to do this. But I think the storytelling piece, I'm not sure that I got a full idea of how that part factored in. I think you seem to be a naturally good storyteller from listening to your podcast and having conversations with you and seeing you present to groups that I'm a part of. But would you say that that's accurate, that you've always been a good storyteller?
I have not always felt like a good storyteller, which is why I'm over here smiling, because the reason I worked so hard to be a better storyteller is because I felt like a crap one. Aww. And I didn't want to feel so bad. I knew I needed to be able to articulate things better. I've always felt really good with writing. But speaking has been a very different ball game. I mean,
Mm.
even when I first started doing podcast interviews, I would have been bright red. I would have been shaking over here. Like it was just, and I also laugh about how I swear I used to like black out on podcast interviews. I don't know what I said, but I was like, hopefully that sounded good. And then I'd listen back and I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't too bad. But no, I haven't always felt like a great storyteller. But what I found was in my massage practice, of course, you can't, and you understand this too with your background, you can't say, like, I'm making up names, Bob, like, Sarah's going through the same thing that you are, and da 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 da. But I had two clients, and there's this, like, one very clear storyline that I remember. I had two clients. They both had severe neck stuff going on.
Mm.
Both of them needed surgery.
Mm.
They were, at the time I was living in Raleigh, North Carolina, really good. I mean, like, Durham is the city of medicine, so we have lots and lots of medical facilities, really great professionals. But there's still something about finding that right person that you click with, especially like if they're going to have a scalpel and be near very sensitive things.
Yep.
So I was telling person A what person B was going through, and then person B felt very, reassured. They felt like they weren't going through this alone, even though they never crossed paths or knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
It gave them that sense of storytelling, gave them a sense of not being alone. And that's been a huge thing in my life ever since I was like really, really little. It's just like, I don't want people to feel alone. So storytelling really helped me to help them. And that like warmed my heart. So that's how it first started. And then with copywriting, I woke up one day, kid you not, woke up one day, had a dream. And I was like, I'm going to write case studies with SEO. I had never heard anyone talk about this. I just like came up with this idea. Or I thought I came up with that idea, and I was like, I'm going to write this, and I can optimize it for SEO, and it'll merge storytelling and social proof and SEO, and it'll be the ultimate way to sell and way to connect with people and way to let them try before they buy, because it's really hard to do with a service. But that's how storytelling started with my world, and then how it came into the copywriting part of things.
I think you probably have to become a good storyteller when you're ADHD-ish, because this tendency to like merge things,
Yeah.
the way my brain works, like I perceive things. It's like, oh, when someone explains something, I'm like, oh, that's kind of like this. Because I'm always thinking in
Mm-hmm.
analogies and metaphors. Because once I hear about something, my brain just sort of connects it to all the other things that I connect to it, but other people may not get those connections. So
Mm-hmm.
I often get that weird look like I'm saying, oh, so you're telling me that. I said that, oh, that's kind of like this. And then I wish I had a practical example at the top of my head, but like I'm thinking, oh, that reminds me of something in a completely unrelated field, a completely unrelated experience, a completely unrelated example. My brain is like, duh, like this is obvious, right? And I'm getting this weird ass look like, what is wrong with you? So I think I've had to learn how to be a storyteller so I could connect those dots for other people whose brains don't connect them for them, you know?
Yeah, and I think I've done something very similar in the way I thought about it, or the way that it happened for me, was because I wanted to articulate things for other people. You can see the look of confusion, even like what you're saying with your story. And so when you see that look of confusion, you're like, all right, let me try explaining it this way. All right, let me try explaining it this way. And again, back to that, not wanting people to feel alone. It's something I've always done in my life. Like even in school, I was the kid that, sure, copy my homework, but I'm going to tell you how I got the answer so you actually learn how to do this thing. So when the test comes around, you know how to do it. And so like there's always been this, here's how I got this answer, here's how things connect, here's how the dots connect, and let me just share that with you so that you understand it too.
That's got to be an inborn trait for you, right? That it's because, I'm just thinking, I'm a huge Wicked fan. And I've already seen the movie twice. I saw the musical 3 times. I listened to the soundtrack endlessly. I've done like the Peloton Wicked ride, like no lie, probably 100 times. It's embarrassing. But one of the things that's most striking to me about Wicked is that how much one character just would literally do anything in order to be popular, and the other one was the opposite. And I think for somebody like you, like it really matters to you that other people understand that because you could just impress the hell out of them by saying, oh, sure. And you just say, here's what I did. And they're like, wow, but that doesn't really help them. They're
No.
impressed with you. You want them to be impressed with them. So by telling them this is how you do it, you're meeting their needs, but it also sounds like it's meeting a very personal need of your own. And you've probably always been this way. And I'm going to guess, have you ever done Strength Finder?
No, I haven't. I should. I haven't.
It's one of the assessments that I like the most, but I'm hearing that you have a lot of empathy. That empathy is probably one of your superpowers or one of your strengths or one of your drivers that you need to help people and help them feel better, help them function better, help them figure things out easier, help them get further faster. Like, yes, that's a really important thing to be able to do as a business owner, but it sounds like for you, it's also a personal driver.
Oh, it totally is. Yeah. And even hearing you say some of this stuff, I didn't always feel understood. I didn't always feel heard. And so I didn't always feel like I could ask for help or like I had help available. So it's definitely, even in just the last year, that's something I've realized is innate to me and something I've realized that I do almost in a way project, but also make sure that I'm filling that void before it becomes a void. So yeah, we could go down a whole rabbit hole with that.
I think we already have, but it's my responsibility as the host to reel us back in with my retractable Chihuahua dog leash. You know what? Because I know how you work, because I have worked with you, I think it's important that we also acknowledge that I think someone with a lot of empathy and someone who really has natural gifts and interest in helping others, a lot of people would market their business through social media because they think, oh, it's easy to connect with people there. It's easy to be visible. All you have to do is click a button and you can possibly be connected with someone. And I think most self-employed people, especially people who identify as women in the last few years, have probably leaned most on social media to create content, to create visibility, to try to create connection, community, clients, all the C's. But even though you do promote your business on social media, you also chose to lean more into SEO. And I kind of wish I had made that choice earlier than I did. I recently had my Facebook and Instagram accounts suspended. It's now been 2 months and they're probably never coming back. If I had spent, the last few years really investing in SEO instead of social media, that couldn't have happened. So I think SEO, it's not sexy. People don't think it's sexy. It doesn't, social media seems sexy and many people think it's also necessary. Like you have to be on social media. Why did you decide that SEO was really more important? And how do you teach and serve your clients differently with SEO? Because I got to be honest with you, I invested in SEO for a previous business. It was the most boring, tedious, it was pure torture. I hated and when I look back on the website that I had built with all that, it was horrible. It was traumatic for anybody to visit, I'm sure. And I thought I'm never doing this again. But you do it differently. Can we talk about that?
I do. Yes, please. I would love to.
Yes, please. So
Yes,
polite.
please.
Really very sweet.
Thanks.
You're like, I insist.
I insist. We must talk about this. Well, the way I do it differently, I'll start there, is that I make it approachable. I make it fun. I make it simple. And so, an SEO pro may see what I'm talking about. Another expert may see what I'm talking about or how I'm explaining things, and they may roll their eyes. That's cool. They're not my audience. I'm here to talk to people like the Dianes and the Brittnys who need to hear this because I heard of SEO when I started my massage website. Do you think I installed that or paid any attention to it? Nope. I had no idea what it was. It seemed boring. It seemed complicated. It seemed costly. It seemed like there was coding involved. And I was like, I'll leave that for down the road. I'll just kick that can down the road. It's totally fine. Absolute big red X not doing it. So please don't think that I started there because I didn't. And I don't even think I really touched SEO until I had, business number two. And I was shifting my entire website from it because it was just my name, BrittanyHerzberg.com. Like it was my name specifically because I knew I wanted to just have something that could grow and ebb and flow with me. So I'm glad that I had that foresight because it was a huge advantage. But it's still a giant pain in the tush to go from your entire website is all about massage therapy in the Raleigh area, and now you're going to do SEO copywriting for anyone.
Right.
So I really needed to lean into that. And as far as like, why did I lean into it? I've always thought of SEO since I heard of it. And, in the 2021 timeframe, 2020 timeframe, I've always thought of it as extra credit for business owners. It's there. You can take advantage of it. And going back to my straight A student roots, like, why would I not take advantage of some extra credit? So it also goes into intention. So much of SEO is just rooted in intention. You're very clear on who you're talking to, how you help them, what you want to be known for. And if you can just keep that as the filter, then SEO seems much more approachable, much more doable, much easier. And it doesn't have to be this techie complicated crapshoot that, the boring stuff that we see most people talking about in the way they're talking about it. And I will say, I did start off by leaning into social media big time, especially Instagram. I think I had my website, and then maybe a year or two after that, I started my Instagram account that was for my business, which I started talking about massage therapy. And then I had this like, oh shit moment when I decided to go with SEO and copywriting. And I was like, I have to announce this on Instagram. I can't keep straddling the line of massage therapy and copyright because it makes no sense.
No, they're not next door neighbors or close cousins.
They're not.
Yeah.
They're not even in like neighboring states. So I was like, all right, we've got to just like claim this, go down this path, speak to this. And that was a very like scared shitless moment for me was that one. But you and I were talking even before we hit record. I'm so much about like the connections and the like, let me help you. Let's be friends. I think what you're doing is really cool. And it's from a genuine place. But I wasn't selling. I wasn't talking about my stuff. I wasn't sharing, the testimonials from clients. So I wasn't even approaching it in the best way possible. But I did think that it was quote unquote necessary to have social media as my marketing, channel.
When I think about why I finally realized SEO was necessary, and fortunately it was a little bit earlier than when my Instagram and Facebook accounts got shut down, is that somebody made the comment, and I think, again, this was a totally unrelated situation, but my ADHD brain grabbed a hold of it and went, Somebody said, it's a lot easier to catch fish that are already swimming toward your boat. And because I know, right? And since I have no idea who I stole that from, it's yours for the taking as well. Just propagate. Because I realize, oh, wow, yeah. When you think about it, when we're promoting our business on social media, and listen, hey, I'd be the first one to admit there are people who do it really well, like really well. I am not one of them. And so I think, okay, people come to social media just for a pleasant interruption to their day. They go to alleviate boredom. They go to have a moment of levity. They go to see some funny cat or dog videos. They don't go because they're looking to hire someone to do something for them, generally speaking. So we're literally trying to interrupt people who are coming to this app for whatever purpose, probably not well thought out. It's probably just an impulse, right? And we think that we are going to be so clever that we're going to interrupt their scroll and go, hey, hello, you, yeah, you. You don't know me, but I am now going to become the most important person in your day because here's what you're going to do next. You're going to notice me, you're going to pay attention to me, and you're going to give me some money. Are we clear? Doesn't it make a whole hell of a lot more sense to put the words on your post, on your emails, on your website in particular, that are specifically coded to speak directly to the people who are already on the internet looking for what you do? Don't like search intention. It's so logical. It makes so much sense. Why wouldn't you put copy on your website for the people who are already looking for what you do. It's such a
Mm-hmm.
no-brainer that I literally feel like, to use your expression, dumb dumb lollipop, for not thinking of it a whole lot sooner. And you're absolutely right. I think the vast majority of people who don't use SEO think it's boring, complicated, expensive, tedious, and takes for fuck ever to work.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you'd be doing it if all of that were true.
Oh, heck no.
You would have
No.
bounced. You're like,
I
oh,
would have bounced
not for
long, long
me.
ago. Long ago. No, and the thing is, like, I mean, you can optimize your social media profile to be more findable, but I love whoever came up with that line. That is brilliant about, like, it's easier to catch fish that are swimming toward you.
Hello.
I mean, but we don't know what we don't know. And things that feel simple often seem too simple, and we overlook them because they are simple.
I think that's 1,000% true. As a matter of fact, if it looks too easy and too simple, we assume that it isn't necessary or won't make a difference. I have a new motto: everything counts. Because sometimes we think, oh, I don't have time to do an hour of exercise today, so I'll just wait till tomorrow. You can take a 10-minute brisk walk. It counts. Even if you don't have time to optimize your whole ass website for SEO, you can optimize the post that you're writing for today or tomorrow. It counts. Everything freaking counts. Otherwise, the whole thing just seems so daunting. So I'm realizing with everything that you do, SEO, social proof, and storytelling, is there a hierarchy? I know that they're all important and they're all necessary, and you use and teach and provide, services to your clients that include all of them. Do you think that there is a hierarchy of importance, or that you need to sort of focus on one first because it's like a prerequisite for the other to be more effective? Or
Yeah,
what do you think?
the way I started, so I started with social proof. If we go back to the massage therapy example, I started with
Mm-hmm.
social proof. I still start with social proof with my clients, and even if I'm ever optimizing stuff for myself, because I want to know what your people are saying, how they're saying it, because if we get that answer from them, that's cutting out a whole lot of the question marks that we have, a whole lot of the guesswork that we're doing
Mm,
when it comes to specifically keyword research. That's kind of the path that I follow. So if we
mm.
can figure out what your people are saying, how they're explaining all of that, and then do the keyword research based on those things that they're saying, plus who do you want to help, how do you want to help them, what do you want to be known for, then the keyword research becomes a whole heck of a lot easier because we have that filter built in for us. So social proof, then SEO, which I kind of start off with keywords. The
Mm-hmm.
foundation of SEO, a lot of it is keywords, and then it's how you use it, how you're plugging things in, and then you can get techie and geeky from there, which is totally cool. But we start with keywords, and then from there you can tell the stories.
And also the case studies, the way clients give testimonials or give feedback, they're also storytelling. And I imagine, because you have a whole format that you use for
Mm-hmm.
storytelling and for case studies, and it's like asking your clients the right questions in the right order, so in the right format, so that the way they provide the answer is naturally in a storytelling format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the way that I break out those case studies is before, during, and after. If we're looking high level, so what was going on before, what was their experience like working with you, where are they at now because they worked with you, and whatever that looks like. That could be a product, that could be a service, that could be anything. So that's how I do the case studies. And like I said earlier, it's allowing them to try before they buy, which
Mm.
we were talking about this earlier as well. The buying process has gotten, people need a longer runway. We've been screwed over so many times.
Mm, this is so practical. And
I
honestly,
try.
well, the thing is that, with these ADHD-ish tendencies, being a curious human is a wonderful thing. It is an absolutely delightful thing. It's frankly one of the things I appreciate most about my brain and the way it works, because I never get bored. I will always find something that stimulates my curiosity and go pursue it. So I don't need to be entertained. I find something that I'm curious about and I go see what I can learn about it. But I know that there are some times that following our curiosity might not be in our best interest. In fact, one of the things that I help my clients with is decluttering and right sizing their business. What tends to happen when you have this ideation ability is you come up with another idea and another idea and another idea, and you've got all these wonderful, sparkly ideas, which of course want to be developed into a program, product, or service immediately. And now, oh, shoot, I got to market and sell all of these different things that I've created. This is getting kind of cluttered and complicated. And now I don't really know what to focus on and what I'm actually selling. And people don't really know what to refer me for because I do all these different things. This is really common with people with these tendencies. So I think sometimes scratching that itch is not in our best interest. Sometimes we need to curb our enthusiasm and not follow our curiosity. How do you decide in your business, like what you're going to allow yourself to pursue and what you're going to say, not today, Martha?
It's been an evolving process. So I'll say that. I have followed the shiny object many, many times, probably sooner than I quote unquote should have. But what I do now is I give myself like almost like a brain dump of all my ideas and I table it. So I let myself actually write it out, maybe dream it out a little bit, but I table it. And one thing I've already got time built in. One thing I'm going to do differently this year is do quarterly check-ins with myself and with my offers. Because like you're talking about, we can get so excited and just build all the things. And then we end up with like a giant offer suite that you don't even know how to articulate. There's just going to be constant ideas and connecting dots and changing things and pivoting. And it's something I've had to learn to accept as someone who doesn't really love change. But one thing I've also learned to look for is this outside, like other people start asking for the thing that I maybe put on my ideas list. So getting that external validation when I haven't said a word, just letting that be an idea on my list. I'm not sharing it with anyone. And then next thing you know, like that's what happened with the blogging guide that I have. So I have a product that came about because I put it on my ideas list. And then the next week, 3 people were like, hey, do you have any kind of resource about blogging and SEO? And I was like, well, I will now that you said something to me. So I do look for that.
Yeah, like you just intuitively figured this out for yourself. But
Yeah.
this notion of, I have this idea, and oftentimes when you're an ideator, like the whole idea comes like, it's like a download. It just comes from wherever it comes from, and
Yeah.
it's a fully developed idea. And when it happens like that, it's like, I've got to do something with this immediately. So there's like the impulsivity and just the excitement, and like we just run into it. But if your business and life tend to be overcomplicated with things that you've created and now you don't have room to sell or service, or they're not even finished because once the novelty wore off, you're like, next. Just being able to allow yourself to experience that download, allow yourself to experience the brainstorm, to play with the idea, allow it to, temporarily hijack you and be indulgent with it. And then hit the pause button before you go into implementation, set it aside, put it in, I call it the idea parking lot, put it in the parking lot. If I think it's really good and I'm really feeling like I want to act on it now, but I know I don't have the bandwidth because I've got other commitments, I will share it with at least one other person so I can enjoy the excitement phase a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then I'll set it aside and come back to it later. But your extra part about I will come back to it when I start getting requests for it. That's like, the Ikigai. I think I've got the name right, where what you enjoy, what you want to be known for, what people are willing to pay you for. And, it's like the concentric circles. Like it's not enough to be able to do something because you're excited about it. There has to be a market for it. And when people start coming to you, when the fish are coming toward your boat, then you know it's going to be easy for you to sell as well. So, like, that's a really nice way of allowing yourself to be this manifesting generator, this ideator, but like putting some pacing in it so you don't waste time or create too much complication and chaos in your business. What is up next for you? If it's not too early to share, or we wouldn't be letting the cat out of the bag prematurely, because I know your curiosity is leading you somewhere in 2025. So would you share what you can share about that?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, this is coming up very, very soon, but I have a workshop that I'm doing that's all about blogging specifically for business owners. More than likely, I will do this again. So even if the actual workshop itself is over by the time the podcast comes out, I will be doing this again, most likely. But what I'm really focusing on in 2025 in general is more in the lane of SEO, and not just for websites, but websites, podcasts, and blogs. Because so many of us think only of our website, but really you have this whole ecosystem, and SEO is like a stalker. It's out there online for you, with you, next to you, when you're sleeping. Like, it can be really great to lean on that. And like I was saying earlier, to optimize the Instagram profile, to optimize the podcast or the website or whatever it is. And you were even saying every little bit counts. It totally counts. So even if someone comes to me and all they can afford to do or all they want to do at that point, maybe just to build some trust with SEO and with me, is to optimize their homepage or something. I have stuff like that going on. So the focus is really SEO for websites, blogs, and podcasts this year. So I'm really excited. I don't know everything that's going to come through. I have left open space in my calendar for once to just give myself that breathing room to let whatever wants to come through, and I can have different kinds of workshops and resources, and who knows. So I'm really excited to just see what happens.
I love knowing that you're going to be presenting how to bring SEO into your podcast, into your blog, and other things, because so many of us have a extensive archive of content that probably hasn't been optimized for SEO. And that's leaving a lot on the table, when that, with just a little bit of change, could be rewarding you, especially even for stuff that you've done years ago. I just love that.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's so often overlooked, is the O when it comes to SEO, which, if you're not familiar with what that means, I should have said this earlier, but search engine optimization. The O is optimization. And so many of us want to create and build and do and just like do more, and we think it has to be new and fresh. And this goes for me too. And it's like, no, you have stuff, you can just optimize it.
That's a great way to think about this year, I think, because a lot of people are tired. We talked about that earlier in the pre-chat. A lot of people are frankly quite exhausted. 2024 kicked quite a few asses. And I think going into the new year and recognizing, hey, maybe you don't need to be thinking about creating a bunch of new things. Maybe you need to be spending a little bit of time and energy and focus on the things you've already created, so that they can be doing more for you. I am game.
Thank you so much.
Hey, it's Diane. If you've noticed that you tend to remember things better when you've heard them and read them, why not sign up for the ADHD-ish LinkedIn newsletter? That way you'll get episode highlights in writing each and every week. All you've got to do is click the link in the show notes.